Hey, what's up, though? Welcome to the today's webinar, all right, which is entitled "The Truth About Child Support and How the Truth Can Set You Free." Um, First of all, I want to congratulate you on taking the initiative to make it here. All right, grabbing that information off the flyer or whatever it is that you saw, and deciding to check this out. That shows some initiative on your part, and it shows that you actually want to make your life better. All right, so I'm not gonna let you down. I'm definitely got some real potent and powerful information to share with you today in regards to this matter. And so without further ado, let's get into it. All right. Now I got to put on the floor off rip that I am not an attorney. I do not practice law. And so the information that you're getting here today is just that, for informational purposes only. Okay. All right, so let's go. So this is for anyone currently living in North America who wants to reclaim the quality of your life from the plague of child support enforcement. Okay, so today you're going to learn the foundational truth of why child support is completely unlawful and what you can do to stop its intrusion into your life. Okay, so I hope you got a pen and pad, something to write with and take notes, because you're definitely going to want to do that. I'm going to be covering quite a bit of information here, and it's probably going to be some stuff that you never heard of before. So you definitely want to take notes, because at the same time, it's information that can absolutely help you. Okay, so my promise to you was that by the end of this class, you will know the truth about child support that no agent, judge, or referee wants you to ever discover. The truth which can set you free. Okay? So you might be wondering, why am I doing this? Like, why would somebody put up some flyers and offer you a free class when you've got attorneys out here who are charging thousands upon thousands of dollars, just to get your fees reduced on child support, right? Why would I be doing this for free? Well, I'm doing this because I believe that there are way too many fathers who are being punished simply for just being fathers. I believe that there are way too many fathers who are going through hell just because they chose to have a child with a woman that they aren't truly compatible with. And I believe that way too many fathers are suffering because they just don't know the law. And most of all, I'm doing this because I give a damn. Okay, so anything and everything that a father might be going through, a dad might be going through in regards to child support, I'm pretty familiar with it. Okay. But thank goodness I was able to meet the right people. I was able to research the right things, and I was able to discover some real, some keys that have allowed me to have some real big victories in regards to child support. Okay. I also need to put on the floor that what you're going to learn today is something that I'm only doing for a very limited amount of people. All right, this whole thing right here is only going to be up for a limited amount of time, and then that's it. Okay. So if you are one of the lucky few that are on this webinar right now, definitely consider yourself blessed and fortunate. Okay, because I'm sure that we can all relate to what child support does. Like, have you had your license revoked? Have you had your right to travel restricted? Is your paycheck being deducted to a point where it's making it difficult for you to live? Is this issue causing problems in your current relationship? Do you want to be a father to your child, but you don't want to submit to the authority of the state? Has your credit score plummeted because of child support debt? Do you find yourself stressed out and worried about where your life is going? Are you in hiding because of child support enforcement? Has friend of the court issued a warrant for your arrest? Have you been locked in a cell like, like a real criminal just for child support debt? Well, what I can tell you is that those are some really messed up, that's some messed up stuff, man. Those are some messed up problems to have. But what I can share with you is that none of those are the real problem. The real problem is that you just haven't made the 3 key shifts that I'm about to share with you right now. So key shift number 1 is that sometimes the way out is in. And what I mean by that is that, if you, sometimes the only way to get out of something is to, dive into it so that you can comprehend how it works and how it functions. Okay. So realize that learning how something works, right, is how you become the master of it. Learn how child support works and you will become the master of it. Key shift number 2, make a commitment right now that you are going to learn how friend of the court works, how child support functions, so that you can become the master of it. All right. Key shift number 3, once you learn that, once you learn how child support functions, how it operates, how it works, what it really is, and that's the reason why you're here today on this class, apply what you learn to the benefit of your family and yourself. Okay, because it's one thing to have the knowledge to get the keys. It's a whole nother thing to actually apply that knowledge, to have the courage to, stand up for yourself as a man, and to, do what you need to do. And key shift number 4, understand that no one is coming to save you. Okay? I mean, I know people who have spent thousands of dollars on attorney fees trying to deal with child support, and it got them nowhere. You have to save yourself. And the way you do that is by using your mind, your focus, your concentration, and your courage. These are the greatest weapons that you have in the war for your freedom. And don't get it twisted. If you're dealing with child support, you are in a war. Okay. So, off rip, I need to get off into, you need to get an understanding about how the government functions. All right. So if you don't understand what government is and what it can and what it can't do, what it's supposed to do and what it's not supposed to do, who it can do it to and who it can't do it to, right? You definitely want to pay attention here because this is extremely important. So you have what's called constitutional checks and balances, separation of powers. Okay. So you have what's called the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. These are the 3 branches of government. And each one of these branches of government has their own specific powers, and each one of their jobs is also to keep each other in check. Okay, the executive branch is supposed to keep the judicial branch in check. The judicial branch has to check the legislative branch. The legislative branch has to check the executive branch. They all work together, and they all work to keep each other in check so that, neither one of these branches of government can get too much power. So the executive branch consists of, on the federal level, it consists of the president, the vice president, and all the various departments of the government, like the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, right? And then you have the legislative branch, which consists of the House and the Senate, and the judicial branch, which consists of the federal courts and the Supreme Court. Okay. So these are the powers of the executive branch. The power to veto bills, appointment of judges and other officials, making peace treaties or making treaties with other nations. The legislative branch has the power to propose laws, confirm or reject presidential nominations for heads of federal agencies. Federal, they also are have power to for appointment of federal judges and the Supreme Court, and they have the authority to declare war. And the judicial branch has the power to try federal cases and interpret the laws of the nation in those cases, and the power to declare any law or executive act unconstitutional. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, on a state level, the state level of government reflects the federal level. Okay, so now we're not talking about Washington, D.C. Now we're talking about, like state of Michigan, state of Illinois, state of Ohio, right? We're talking about that now, okay? So on a state level, the state executive branch consists of the governor, the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, the attorney general, and all the various departments of state. Okay, so the governor is the chief executive officer or CEO of the state. Now, on the state legislative branch consists of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And the state judicial branch consists of the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, and the Circuit Court and District Courts. Okay, so make sure that if you need to, write this down, because this is very important. You must understand this part right here. You must understand this so that I don't lose you in during the next part of this class. Okay, because you're about to learn in just a few minutes something really significant in regards to child support, and why child support is actually unlawful, unconstitutional. Okay, this is knowledge right here and information that can really help you. All right, so let's keep going. Now, you have what's called the separation of powers doctrine. Right, this is in the Constitution. And what that basically breaks down is that on a state level, okay, we're talking about the state. The powers of the executive branch on the state level have the powers to veto, power of appointment, powers to reorganize the executive government. They have authority over the state budget, proposals, and and other powers that they have. Okay, the powers of the legislative branch on a state level is to enact the laws of here in Michigan, or Illinois or Ohio, or wherever, whatever state it is, and they have the power to levy taxes and appropriate funds from money collected for the support of the public institutions and the administration of the affairs of state government, propose amendments to the state constitution. Okay, powers of the judicial branch. The judicial power is primarily invested in the Supreme Court. General administrative supervision of all courts is what the Supreme Court has, and they have, it has the power to, the judicial branch has power to hear cases and appeals. Okay, the judicial branch, I know I got Supreme Court here, but this is the judicial branch. They have powers to establish rules. Sorry about that. The Supreme Court also has the power to establish rules and practices and procedures for all the courts of the state. All right, but these are the powers of the judicial branch in the state. So understand that the executive branch don't have the power to hear cases and appeals. Only the judicial branch has that power, right? Okay. So, all right, so what is child support? The Child Support Enforcement Act, or CSEA, was created under Title 4D of the Social Security Act, and is a federally funded, federally created act. Child Support Enforcement Act is enforced by the executive branch of the federal government. Child Support Enforcement Act is a contract made between the federal government and the state of Michigan. right? Or whatever state. Right now, we're in Michigan, so we're talking about Michigan. Okay, so child support is a contract made between the federal government and the state of Michigan. And Michigan's adoption of this federal program is entitled Office of Child Support Act, Support and Parenting Time Enforcement Act, and Friend of the Court Act. You might want to write those down and look those up if you didn't know already. And Child Support Enforcement Act is administered by the Department of Health and Human Services, or DHHS. Okay. DHHS is a federally funded agency created under Title 4D, right? Created by the executive branch of the federal government. And DHHS is an administrative agency contracted here in Michigan to enforce and administrate Title 4D, or the Child Support Enforcement Services, okay? So understand that the Department of Health and Human Services is ultimately under the direction and jurisdiction of the executive branch of the United States. So understand that child support enforcement is not being directly enforced or administered by the judicial branch. So I know you might be saying, like, wait a minute, I've been to child support, friend of the court, and I've been inside of an actual courthouse in a courtroom with a, judge with a black robe and a gavel, and it seemed like they had the power to, to actually lock people up. You may have been locked up, or you may have been ordered to pay fines or fees or whatever. Okay, but what I'm telling you right now is that in reality, that person inside of that courtroom is not actually a judge. They're not a judicial officer. They're what's called a administrative law judge, okay, or a child support enforcement agent. All right. And that is not a courtroom. It's a child support enforcement hearings room. All right, but don't worry about it. I'm going to clarify all this stuff more very shortly. All right, so let's keep going. So why is this an issue that child support is not being directly enforced by the judicial branch? It's an issue because all criminal civil matters must be heard and adjudicated, that just means decided, by the judicial branch. Remember, the executive branch can't do the job of the judicial branch. They don't have that power. So when the executive branch of the government is administrating civil criminal matters, that is a violation of the separation of powers doctrine. Okay, it's a violation of the Constitution. Each branch has specific powers, and adjudicating or deciding civil criminal matters is not a power of the executive branch. This is exclusively a power of the judicial. All right. So just to bring this point all the way home, this has already been decided in a Minnesota Supreme Court ruling. Okay. It's already been decided by the Supreme Court that child support is unconstitutional. You can read that case in Remarriage of Sandra G. Holmberg versus Ronald Jared Holmberg. You can read the case. If you just type this into Google, it'll come up. All right. And here's what they said. Administrative child support process, just like it's been adopted for Michigan, it's also been adopted for Minnesota and all the states, violates the separation of powers doctrine, just like I just told you, by infringing on the district court's original jurisdiction, by creating a tribunal which is not inferior to the district court, and by permitting child support officers to practice law. Therefore, the statute is unconstitutional. This is according to the Supreme Court in Minnesota. All right. They also say that the statute explicitly grants administrative law judges all powers, duties, and responsibilities conferred on judges of district court to handle child support cases. Arguably, administrative law judges are even superior. They're saying that these administrative law judges are, in a way, even superior to judicial judges. In some respects, as administrative law judges are empowered to modify child support orders granted by district courts. So they're saying that child support is unconstitutional because these administrative law judges, who aren't actual judicial officers, are practicing law, and their authority is in certain ways superseding the authority of the actual judicial officers, the real judges. Okay, and they also say that, they go on to say that administrative law judge child support orders are given the same deference or power as district court orders. They are appealable by right and reviewed by the Court of Appeals under an abuse of discretion standard. So the administrative child support process current structure, this is their words, not mine, the words of the Supreme Court judges. The administrative child support process current structure violates the constitutional constraints on separation of powers for three separate and independent reasons. First, the administrative process infringes on the district court's original jurisdiction in contravention of Minnesota Constitution. So they're saying that child support, the administrative process, because child support is an administrative process. You should write that down. Child support is an administrative process, not a judicial process. And that process infringes on the district court's original jurisdiction, right? To have, basically saying that the actual judicial court is supposed to have authority over all criminal civil matters, right? And they're saying that child support is infringing on that. It's taking that power away. Second, administrative law judge jurisdiction is not inferior to the district court's jurisdiction, as mandated by the Constitution. And third, the administrative process empowers non-attorneys to engage in the practice of law, infringing on the court's exclusive power to supervise the practice of law. And for these three reasons, we hold that the administrative process violates the separation of powers and is unconstitutional. These are the words of the Supreme Court justices in Minnesota. Okay, this case was just ruled last year. Now, I'm sure that if you have an attorney, if you have a child support attorney, pretty sure that they probably didn't tell you this, that child support has already been ruled unconstitutional. Okay, this is something that none of the child support enforcement agents want any of us to know. So now, just to bring this on home, the separation of powers is not just in the federal Constitution or in the Minnesota Constitution. It's also in the Michigan Constitution, which is Article 3, subsection 2, which says the powers of government are divided into three branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. No person exercising powers of one branch shall exercise powers properly belonging to another branch, except as expressly provided in this Constitution. So it is unconstitutional in the state of Michigan. Child support is unconstitutional here in the state of Michigan for the same reason that it's unconstitutional in Minnesota, right? It's a violation of the Constitution, of the separation of powers doctrine. Okay, so this is huge. All right. So the first violation of child support enforcement is that child support is not being enforced by the judicial branch, but is actually being enforced and administrated by the executive branch of the United States via contract with the executive branch of the state and the county, which is a clear violation of the Michigan Constitution. Okay. This is why child support is a violation of the separation of powers doctrine. All right. So let's get, you should definitely understand that. That should absolutely make sense to you. If it doesn't, man, go back and watch that again. Take notes. Study up on the separation of powers doctrine. Understand what I just broke down. Okay? Because what I'm telling you right now, the information I'm giving you, this is key to you getting child support off your back. Okay. So here's a violation of the how child support enforcement violates the Constitution. The second reason. So let's get into this. Child support enforcement utilizes bills of attainder. Now, what's a bill of attainder? A bill of attainder is a legislative act that singles out an individual or group, like fathers or non-custodial parents, okay, for punishment without a trial. Now, I've never heard of anyone having a jury trial for child support. They don't give you the option of having a trial in child support. Everyone knows that. Have you ever wondered why that is? Why is it that this is something they can lock you up for? They can ruin your credit, ruin your life, separate you from your children. They can do all these things, but you don't have the right to a jury trial? Okay, that's what's called a bill of attainder. Okay, so in child support, no one is given any opportunity to have a jury trial, which is a bill of attainder. Okay. So here's Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 10. You can look this up for yourself. No bill of attainder. No bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contract shall be enacted. No bill of attainder. Bills of attainders are against the constitutional. They're unconstitutional and therefore unlawful. Okay. So let's get into the third reason, the third violation of child support, which is the Office of Child Support issuing fraudulent, invalid warrants. They do that. They're doing this a lot now. So if you've ever had a warrant issued for your arrest by child support, you definitely want to pay attention to this part. If you are currently in hiding right now because there's a warrant for your arrest for child support, you definitely want to pay attention to this. So most warrants issued for the arrest of people for child support related issues are never signed by a judge. Yet, friend of the court still enforces these warrants anyway. Okay? This is a criminal offense as it is against the law and their very own internal policy. So here's what the Michigan Title 4D Child Support Manual states. Friend of the court staff must not enter a bench warrant into MIXES, which is the Michigan Child Support Enforcement System, unless it has been signed. And it says not a stamped signature and dated by a judge. Okay, so if you have a warrant for your arrest for child support, I would strongly suggest that you go down to the county, or I'm not saying you should go down there, but send somebody down there and get a copy of the warrant from the file. Okay, go, the county clerk has a copy of, if there's a warrant for your arrest, the county clerk has a copy of it. Okay, so I would strongly suggest you go down there and get a certified copy of the warrant. And when you look at that warrant, if there's not a signature on that warrant, then that warrant is invalid. It's a bogus warrant. Okay. So if you're picked up on one of those bogus warrants, if they lock you up on that, you have a remedy, and that remedy is being paid damages, that you suffer against your person. But if you do things the right way, you can access that remedy. Okay. So I just gave you three huge reasons. I just gave you three huge reasons why child support is unlawful. Now you know the truth. Okay. And now that you know that truth, that child support enforcement is unconstitutional. If you have been damaged or injured due to these criminal unconstitutional acts, then you have a remedy. And when I say damaged or injured, that's all the payments that you've been making to child support enforcement. If they've locked you up, right? If they've revoked your license, if they've done any of these things to make your life hell, you've been injured. So you have a remedy, but you must be willing to arm yourself with the proper knowledge to hold these public servants accountable. Remember that word, public servants. Okay? Because all these, the governor all the way down to the sheriff to, these are all public servants. They all work for the public. It means they work for you. You just have to hold them accountable. In order to do that, you must have the knowledge and you must have the courage to stand up for yourself. Okay? So at this point, now you have a choice. Okay? You can either forget everything that you just learned here today and continue to operate in fear, continue to be stressed out, continue to remain in hiding like a fugitive from the law. You've done nothing wrong. Continue to be jailed because of child support debt, which is unconstitutional. Continue to have your checks garnished. Continue to have issues in your current relationships. Continue to not know where your life is going. Okay? Or you can do what it takes to get child support off your back. So I've given you some very powerful keys here today to help you. And you can take those keys and you can do more research on your own and you can move ahead. Okay? Or you can reach out for the help and guidance that you need. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It took me years of researching and studying to figure out the things that I figured out. Years to get the victories that I've gotten. And I was blessed. I was fortunate to have some mentors along the way that showed me some things. But, most of the work I did on my own. I used my own mind, my own focus, my own concentration to study and to learn the truth. And I had to use my own courage to stand up as a man to apply that truth. Okay? But what I'm telling you is that you can reach out for the help and guidance that you need. That's the shortcut, so to speak. So here's what I have for you. I've set aside some time to speak with a limited amount of people over the next few weeks. Okay. And so how you can get in contact with me is to book a call. And if you book a call, during our conversation, I will share with you a step-by-step strategy that you can put into action to enforce the Constitution and policies that friend of the court has been violating. And put a stop to the willful criminal acts of child support enforcement against you. Okay? And give yourself a chance for a better life. So if that makes sense to you, if the things I've shared with you today, if all of this makes sense to you, if it resonates with you, here's your next action steps. Book a call. Okay? There should be a button just below this video that you can click, and we'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes to an hour to discuss the things I went over here today in much greater detail. All right, so that you can really get the keys that you need. All right. And when you book that call, be in a quiet place where you will be undisturbed during the call, because I'm gonna be sharing with you some very, very powerful information. Okay. And bring a pen and notepad for note taking.